Well, hello, everyone. Hello. This is Alexandra Levine live with the America's Pulse Network. We are all in tonight with me, Alexandra Levine. We have some breaking news. Unfortunately, Kelly Clarkson's ex-husband, Brandon Blackstock, he died today at a young age of 48 years old. We find out that he was battling cancer for 3 years, and Kelly Clarkson actually canceled her tour to be with the family. There was actually talk of Kelly Clarkson canceling her show, The Kelly Clarkson Show, to help and deal with her ex-husband's situation. Now, that tells you something about Kelly Clarkson. As you know, for years, she talked about how her ex-husband and her did not have an amicable divorce, how she lost a lot of money to him, how he wanted to take a lot of money from her, how the assets weren't split up properly. And she actually wrote a song about it. She was very upset about not only her ex-husband, but her ex-father-in-law as well. It's interesting because her ex-father-in-law was married to Reba McEntire, and they are also divorced. So first it was Kelly Clarkson getting divorced from Brandon, and then Reba McEntire divorced Brandon's father. Very interesting how things happen. But I applaud Kelly Clarkson here. I applaud her for going over there, for trying to take care of her ex-husband, or at least comfort him through his last months of life. They also have children together, so that was important for her children to see their father right before he's about to perish. So whatever you thought about Kelly Clarkson and Brandon Blackstock, we put those feelings aside. We never speak illy of the dead. We always memorialize the dead, and we always speak well of them. So again, my hearts go out to the Kelly Clarkson family, to the Blackstock family. Again, he was way too young. He was only 48 years old. But we pray that this never happens to anyone else. And then, first breaking news, first slide. Holy crap, by my friend Eric Dowshery. Russian official just revealed that they received an offer from the president's team on the Ukraine war, and they deem it acceptable. Potential meeting with President Trump and Putin next week. This is huge. As you know, President Trump, he campaigned on ending the war between Ukraine and Russia. And as you know, Vladimir Putin has been pissing President Trump off in the last several months. But now the two men are coming to the table. President Putin is willing to come to the table and speak to President Trump, and hopefully this war will be over. As you know, President Trump is creating peace all around the world. He wants all these wars to stop, and he does not want the taxpayers to pay for them. So this is huge, guys. This is huge. And then we have the second straight breaking news. We'll get that second slide. There you go. And I'm going to paraphrase it. So President Trump, he actually has said that race-baiting affirmative action is unconstitutional. And he's 100% correct. And it's long overdue. I mean, this is crazy. This is crazy. I mean, race-based affirmative action that was pushed into schools, into colleges, into universities, into middle schools, elementary schools. I mean, this is crazy. This is crazy. And it is constitutional. It is 100% unconstitutional. And then also breaking news, Judge Jeanine Pirro, who's the new U.S. Attorney to D.C., she gave a phenomenal press conference today talking about the indictment of the crazy pro-Hamas guy who murdered the 2 innocent Jewish people outside of the Capitol Museum. Thank you, Judge Jeanine Pirro. Thank you. Thank you for your words. Thank you for comfort to the family, to the victims' families. I can tell you Judge Jeanine Pirro is extremely pro-Israel. She's extremely pro-Jewish, and she wants justice. You know, the reporter said, well, you know, the crime in D.C. is low. You know, it's lower down, you know, in the last few years. She's like, yeah, it might have lowered, but from what? I can tell you the crime in D.C. is astronomical. Me, as a single young woman, I don't feel comfortable going down to D.C. late at night. And as a reporter, I am always with my other reporter friends. I do not walk by myself. Reporters are always at risk down at D.C. and in Capitol Hill. And then we had a staffer, a guy that used to work at Doge. His name is, quote, Big Balls. He was massively attacked, brutally attacked by a bunch of minors. Anyone who's 14 to 15 to 16 years old doesn't have the right to beat up anybody. And President Trump said, we're going to try these people, not as minors, but as adults. and put them in jail, put them behind bars, and not just get a slap on the wrist. Other breaking news today, too, in Maryland. This was a case that happened. It was a well-known guy who stood in front of Planned Parenthood. And these two not protesters, but these two thugs beat the crap out of this guy, beat the crap out of him. They were arrested. And guess what? They were only sentenced to 1 year in detention. 1 year for beating the crap out of this guy. And I know this guy. He doesn't push or tell these women, you're bad if you get an abortion. He's out there to help them. He's out there to give them a helping hand. But what did these stupid thugs do? They decided to beat the guy up, and he wasn't doing anything. And you give him 1 year. You give him 1 year in jail. You give these thugs 1 year in detention. That's crazy. And that's in Maryland, by the way. So it shows you how corrupt the system is in Washington, D.C. and in Maryland. And also in Chicago, Illinois. It's very corrupt. You have corrupt mayors. You have corrupt governors in these liberal states. It's very, very, very bad. It's very bad. Thank God to Judge Jeanine. Thank God to Alina Habba, who's the U.S. attorney now in New Jersey, that we have strong people with strong backgrounds who know the rule of law and will prosecute people to the fullest extent of the law. And yeah, it's important too. Trump's first 200 days in office. Yeah. Today, he actually honored Purple Heart recipients, which was amazing. But he also brought my friend Stephen Moore into the White House today. Stephen Moore is a senior economic advisor for President Trump. He and Larry Kudlow wrote the original Trump tax cuts, which have been extended. Thank you, Stephen Moore and Larry Kudlow, for that. But what Stephen Moore showed is that under the Biden administration, how the economy was terrible, how there was no jobs, how we were all becoming poor and depressed. And now under the Trump administration, our economy is booming. We have more jobs than ever. And how the Biden administration lied. They lied and said that the economy was great, that oil prices are not high, that everyone can afford to go to the grocery store. Fake news, everyone, fake news. So I applaud Stephen Moore for showing the American people real statistics, real graphs, to show the American people that we are booming. We haven't boomed in 4 years. And of course, under the Biden administration, oh my God, it almost took us to a depression. That's why it was so important that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz did not win. And it's funny, today marks the 1 year anniversary that Kamala Harris picked Tim Walz as her vice presidential candidate, I should say. And then he became the nominee, even though he really wasn't the nominee. That whole thing was rigged. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. The guy that she pushed, a total socialist who watched the city of Minneapolis and practically his state burn down to the ground. His stupid wife said, I could smell the ashes of the people. I could smell the ashes of the burning of the cars and ashes of people and ashes of this and ashes of that. You think she would go out and stop it? No. It was disgusting. Disgusting. I can't understand why anyone would vote Democrat now. I can't understand why anyone would be a Democrat now. There's actually a former representative in Georgia. He is a rhino. He campaigned with Kamala Harris. He said he's denouncing himself as a Republican and he's registering to be a Democrat. Go. He's perfect. What have I always said? That rhinos and socialist Democrats are detriments to our nation. If you're a rhino, you're a Democrat. Hands down. You don't care about the Republican Party. You literally work with the Democrats. And you don't have the American people's best interest at heart. And that's the truth. That is the truth. Now we go into segment 1. First slide, peace through strength. That's the topic today. So President Trump, he made a deadline. He said it's midnight. Billions of dollars in tariffs are now flowing into the United States of America. And he's 100% correct. Once he said that, guess what? Midnight happened and billions of dollars in tariffs are now flowing into the United States. And people are like, oh my God, tariffs are such a bad thing. And a lot of economists were afraid of the tariffs. But President Trump, because he's a smart businessman, he explained to the economists and to the American people that we, the United States of America, have been constantly getting screwed from other countries, European countries, Middle Eastern countries. And President Trump went to the Middle East. He's gone to Europe. He's made deals, phenomenal deals, that all of these European countries and Middle Eastern countries, guess what? They're going to be investing in America. There's a lot of companies here in America that were getting stuff from China. Guess what? They're not doing anymore. They're getting American steel, not Chinese steel. President Trump always said American steel is the best. And he's right. As a builder, he knows this. Why are we getting steel from another country when we have the steel right here? That's why he advocated to put the coal miners back to work up in Pennsylvania, up in Western Maryland. That's why he is advocating now for artificial intelligence jobs coming back to our country. He's advocating for manufacturing jobs. He is combating the Chinese that tried to steal our farmland, which is crazy, by the way. I think I've told you before, I have friends down in Texas that are farmers. They would never in their right mind give up their farmland to the Chinese. It's stupid. It's crazy. And remember, China would tax the heck out of us. But we were getting screwed. The time has come, guys. The time has come to say, we've had enough. And we're moving on to the golden age, the golden era, a new phase where America is not getting screwed anymore. So I thank President Trump for that. I really do. And he's explained multiple times about tariffs. And all these idiots that said tariffs are bad, they're reversing their tune. They're like, oh, President Trump wasn't wrong. He wasn't wrong in the first place. Yeah, no crap. Because he is a businessman. He wrote the book, The Art of the Deal, The Art of the Comeback. I hope you guys read those books. They're phenomenal. I became a better businesswoman after reading those books. A lot of people did. It's very important, guys, to understand how the economy works. And of course, President Trump has called for the resignation of Jerome Powell. He told him, please resign. He appointed someone today to take over the Federal Reserve Board in January 2026. Very important. He wants Jerome Powell out of there. Federal Reserve has too much power. And it's taking them 5 years to renovate buildings, and it's costing us billions of dollars. He's like, this is crazy. He's like, I renovated the Trump hotel in DC. It cost me $200 million. I got it up and running in like less than a year. And that was a beautiful hotel. I know President Trump is thinking about taking back the hotel. It's a Waldorf Astoria now, but he's thinking of taking it back. So again, President Trump knows how to make money. He's a billionaire, but he had to go from what his father left him to keeping up with the Trump name. And he took the Trump name and made it what it is today, a huge success. He was left with 1 billion and he made it 10 billion. And he took over Manhattan. A lot of people said President Trump, or he was Donald Trump at the time, Mr. Trump, Manhattan's not thriving. It's not doing so great. I don't think this is the right time. This was in the 80s. And President Trump, he had the vision. He said, no. He said, I'm going to take Manhattan and I'm going to make it great. And he did. He really did. He owns the 2 buildings next to Bergdorf Goodman. I mean, everything that man touches turns to gold. He knows what to do, so I trust him. Remember, trust the man, trust the plan. And then the second slide, this shows you how wonderful President Trump is. President Trump, he said, I'm proud to be the only president, with the possible exception of the late, great George Washington, to donate my salary. My first, quote, paycheck went to the White House Historical Association. So we make much needed renovations in the beautiful People's House. Great improvements and beautification is taking place at the White House at levels since I can't even read it, at levels not seen since in original creation. Make America great again. So I was trying to read the truth there. But it's very important to understand that President Trump, as you know, is trying to renovate the White House. He wants to build a big, beautiful new ballroom. And he has said that he's going to use his own dime. He's not going to ask the taxpayers to pay for this beautiful ballroom. I can tell you there's a lot of construction companies that want to get involved in this. There's a lot of American-made construction companies that have been messaging the president, emailing the president's White House press corps team and saying, hey, we want to get involved in this. This is great. This is like something I want to do. And I think it's fabulous. President Trump said, I want to have a makeover. I want to make over the Kennedy Center. I want to make over the White House. Remember, President Trump is a builder. He went to the Middle East. He saw what that beautiful mosque in UAE looked like. It was renovated. It was rewashed. It's sparkling white every single day. He looks at that. He looks at our airplanes. He's looking at Qatar's airplane, and he's looking at ours. And he's like, why do we have to have a crappy airplane? It's the same airplane from the 1940s, 1930s. What the heck? I agree with him. I agree with him. And I'm very, very, very happy that he wants to, again, make America great again and keep America great. And remember, he doesn't keep his salary. He donates his salary all the time. He donates it to kids with cancer. He donates it to causes. And now he's donating his salary to renovate the White House. I applaud him. And let's go to the third slide. Again, talking about peace through strength. So now that the nuclear arsenal being created by Iran has been totally obliterated, it is very important to me that all Middle Eastern countries join the Abraham Accords. This will ensure peace in the Middle East. Thank you for your attention to this matter. And again, President Trump is bringing peace in the Middle East. Prime Minister Netanyahu of Israel, he has said we are completely annihilating Hamas and we're going to make Gaza great again. I mean, it's happening. It's happening. And Netanyahu is doing everything he can with President Trump to release all the hostages, get the hostages out as much as he can. Because, as you know, Hamas is a terrorist organization. So is Hezbollah, Islamic Jihad, Al-Aqsa Martyr Brigade, the Taliban. They all need to be annihilated. They all need to be annihilated. And Netanyahu and President Trump are very good friends. They are working together on this. I told you when President Trump went to the Middle East, one of the biggest reasons was to expand the Abraham Accords and sit down and talk with certain Middle Eastern countries to get them on board. And I can tell you, there's a lot of Arab nations that agree with Netanyahu, that agree with what Netanyahu's doing, and they want to have peace. They don't like it when a terrorist organization invades their country. It ruins the economy in that country. It ruins the people. And President Trump has given humanitarian aid to the Gazans who are suffering. And he has made sure that it goes straight to the Gazans so that Hamas doesn't take it and destroy it. And that's the truth. For everyone that's like, oh, Netanyahu is a terrible person, Trump's a terrible person, they don't help the Gazans, that's not true at all. The United States and Israel has always given aid to the Gazans. I told you, the Israelis are peaceful people. They don't want war. They want peace. They're the ones that will help those in need. They don't like to see innocent children blown up. They don't like to see innocent children hurt, or mothers or men. They don't want to see anybody hurt. That's what people need to understand. Get rid of the noise, ignore the propaganda. There's a lot of anti-Semitism out there. There's people that we thought were conservative media, like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. We thought we had conservative Congress people, and they're turning their back, not only on our biggest ally Israel, but they're turning their back on the Republican Party. I mean, there are a lot of rhinos in the Republican Party, but now they're saying that the MAGA people aren't really MAGA anymore. I mean, this is crazy. There's too much division in the Republican Party. And President Trump always said one thing about the Democrats, they all stick together. Now, the problem is there are socialists that are invading the Democrat Party. So a lot of Democrats, modern Democrats, are leaving the Democrat Party and their hashtag becoming Republican because they've hashtag had enough. But they're not rhinos. They actually believe in President Trump and the MAGA movement and believe in America first. But it's very important, guys, to understand this peace through strength, what President Trump wants to do for Israel and what he wants to do for all the Arab nations. He wants the Arab nations and Israel to come together. He wants to expand the Abraham Accords, and he wants to have peace in the Middle East. And let's go to the fourth slide. So the fourth slide, this is a big talk President Trump tweeted, "I have instructed the Department of Commerce to immediately begin work on a new and highly accurate census based on modern-day facts and figures, and importantly, using the results and information gained from the presidential election of 2024. People who are in our country illegally will not be counted in the census. Thank you for your attention to this matter." So President Trump, with his election integrity team and so forth, they're going in and they are looking to see who are the illegals who voted illegally, who are the people that voted twice. There was a lot of minors that voted in certain elections, especially the 2020 election, 2022 election, a lot of 15, 16, 17 year olds that are voting. And of course, it's illegal. The age of voting or the correct age of voting is the age of 18. That's legal age to vote. So President Trump is working wholeheartedly with election integrity teams and so forth to really call out all these illegals that voted in the 2020 election, 2022, and there's probably illegals that voted in the 2024 election. The way that President Trump won the 2024 election is he made it too big to rig. And he also pushed for early voting. He also pushed for absentee ballots, more so than the mail-in ballots. But he said, you know, states that have mail-in ballots, we got to be on top of them. States that allow ballot harvesting, he encouraged those states to ballot harvest where it's legal. But of course, as you know, President Trump's objective is to remove all of the mail-in ballots, to remove all of the ballot harvesting. Everybody has photo ID in all 50 states, and that election should be on one day and paper ballots only, no machines. I agree with him 100%. But again, Congress has to codify that executive order. I mean, all the liberal states that President Trump didn't win, they don't require photo ID to vote. And they're areas with massive illegals, like the state of Maryland, like California, Rhode Island, Delaware, New Jersey. Those are places that Kamala Harris won. Hawaii. So it's very important, guys. It's very important that we do everything we can to have free and fair elections. Again, I have to compliment one of the best researchers in election integrity, William T. Newton. He has literally written the book on election integrity. It's MD 2020W Watch. It's MD 2020W Watch. He literally wrote the book on election integrity. President Trump and J.D. Vance, as well as former Congressman Chris Kobach, and even former Vice President Mike Pence have all of his research and information. His research has been archived in almost every state GOP in this nation. My governor of Florida has this research. Sarah Palin knows about him. Alaska knows about him. The state of Arizona knows about him. Kerry Lake has his research. He's legit. He's 50 steps ahead of a lot of these other groups out there. And what does he always say? It's corrupt internal election personnel. Corrupt internal election personnel. He proved it. What does that mean? Again, it's not how many votes, it's who counts the votes. You have a lot of male people. You have a lot of election judges. A lot of them are the ones that cause the fraud. Also, there's these algorithms. I see that with a lot of incumbents. A lot of the incumbents, their algorithms are higher than someone who's not an incumbent coming in. So there's a percentage thing. So if you vote for one incumbent, they get like 3 percentage points higher than someone who's not an incumbent. So how is that fair? So there's a lot of cheating that goes along with these elections. And that's why President Trump wants to get to the bottom of this. And that's also why he wants to go back to the 2020 census, where Texas was able to have 5 Republican congressional seats. Florida was supposed to get 1 to 2 Republican congressional seats. I applaud Governor Greg Abbott. I applaud my governor, Ron DeSantis, for doing everything they can to redistrict things so that it goes back to what the original census was supposed to be. Now, of course, it has to go through a whole process. Some people say it may happen. Some people say it won't happen. But I know this is something that President Trump is very strong about. And Congresswoman in Texas, Jasmine Crockett, she's freaking out because the way that it would happen is she would be districted out of her district, or her district would become more Republican. Oops. And of course, the Democrats are screaming, oh, the Republicans are gerrymandering. President Trump said the Democrats have been gerrymandering for years. That's what they do. That's their thing. And it's true. They gerrymandered the state of Maryland heavily. I said last week, MDCD6 was supposed to be a heavy Republican district. It's all of Western Maryland, a sliver of Frederick County, a sliver of Montgomery County. But because they put a sliver of Montgomery County in there, which is heavily, heavily Democrat, and a lot of illegals live in Montgomery County, and a lot more illegals are living in Frederick County, it's very hard for a Republican to win in that district now. They had an open seat election. And the guy who's run 3 times, we would think 3 times the charm, he still didn't win. Now he's planning on running for a 4th time. He's thinking he can win. But I mean, Maryland is very heavily Democrat. Again, they don't require photo ID to vote, but the areas of Frederick County, Montgomery County are very heavily Democrat with a lot of illegals and a lot of minors that vote, and people vote once or twice. So again, we really have to work with the correct people, with the right people to get the job done for we the people, so we have free and fair elections. And again, the last slide, my friend Eric Daughtry. He said, wow, Democrats stand to lose 20 to 40 U.S. House seats. This is the plan. POTUS successfully redoes the census with no illegal aliens. And Supreme Court ends the race bait districts. Because remember, I told you this is a court process. That's all the way up to the Supreme Court. And as many Republican states redistrict as possible. And people are like the Republicans in Maryland with the Maryland Freedom Caucus. They're talking about like, we need to start redistricting so we can have more Republican congressional seats. And people are, of course, the Democrats are freaking out, but they have no reason to freak out. They're the ones that did the redistricting to begin with. It's also, they control the power of the purse. The Democrats control the General Assembly in Maryland. So Democrats and people shouldn't be freaking out, and Republicans shouldn't be freaking out. The Republicans want to go back to the 2020 census. There's nothing wrong about it. Nothing wrong. It's very important, guys. It's very important to be educated on this. But whoever becomes the next president, and President Trump floated, it could be J.D. Vance. We want free and fair elections. We cannot go back to Democrats in office. We cannot go back to democratic socialism. And we certainly do not want Hakeem Jeffries to be the Speaker of the House. So before we leave, I just want to reemphasize my affiliate sponsor, rncstore.com/ALL. We'll put that up so everybody sees it. There we go. www.rncstore.com/ALL. Please, guys, go to that website. Put in the discount code ALL. If you don't put ALL, you don't get the discount. You get a 10% off discount. And of course, the more you spend, the more you get off. This is a phenomenal website. John Richardson is awesome. He's going to be back on my show August 21st. That's a Thursday night to discuss all the wonderful things that he's doing. And we will discuss later about his show that's on our network now. But please, guys, go to rncstore.com/ALL. He has found cures for cancer. He believes in apricot seeds. He believes in natural supplements, stuff to help with heartburn, with indigestion, with diabetes, with stage 4 cancers. I mean, this is some really great stuff. And I can tell you, I use his seeds. I feel a lot better. My body feels better. I think I've told you guys I'm in the process of losing weight because it's summertime and living is easy. But summertime and I want to get in that bikini. So if you are like me and you want to lose weight and get in a bikini, or if you're in bridal mode, if you're getting ready to get married, I've talked to so many people that are planning a wedding in October. Well, guess what? It's already July. Or excuse me, it's August. Hello. It's already August. Your wedding's in 2 months. Time to get on that diet and stick to that diet. If you're running for office, I know a lot of people are losing weight now. When you start to door knock, you're going to be losing weight because you're just running around campaigning. And the constituents want to see that. The constituents want to see that you're not just sitting around and getting bigger and bigger. They want to see that you're out on the campaign trail, that you're healthy, that you're strong, that you're losing weight, that you look good. That's why it's very important to go to this website, rncstore.com/ALL. Again, type in ALL. That is your discount code for a discount. And you will love everything that John Richardson has put into that website. You can read all about the website. You can read all about how he got started. You can read all about his father. You can read the history of apricot seeds and how they're so good for you and so healthy for you. So please, guys, go to rncstore.com/ALL. And coming out after the break, we have a new guest, a special guest. His name is T.S. Dixon. He is the author of The Woke Mind Viruses. I wonder what that means. Well, that means you guys have to stay with us right after the break. Hi, I'm Alexandra Levine. I'm a professional opera singer, actress, TV, and radio personality. Since 2015, I've been a volunteer, a field director, and a campaign manager, learning the ins and outs of the political world. That's why I became a political consultant. My job is to lead you to victory with organization, structure, and the mindset of winning for your district or state. With my guidance and direction, I can keep you focused on the things that matter to the people and advise you on key issues that need to be addressed. If you're a serious candidate that is serious about winning, then book a consultation with me today. Go to levineconsulting.co. You'll be happy you did. And that's me, everyone. Alexandra Levine. I own my own political consulting firm, levineconsulting.co. That's levineconsulting.co. Please, guys, if you're a serious candidate that is serious about winning, we are in campaign mode. My book is getting filled. I have calls left and right. People wanting me to work for them, work with them. So please, guys, if you are interested, go to levineconsulting.co and book a consultation with me today. So we have a special guest. He is a new guest. His name is T.S. Dixon. He's the author of The Woke Mind Viruses. And I don't know why I said mind. And I am just so happy to have him on here. But my question to him and to my audience is, what does he mean by the woke mind viruses? Does he mean the COVID-19 viruses? Does he mean the wokeness of the culture going on today? So we'll find out when we bring him up. But there's his picture right there, the woke mind viruses. And this guy is huge because I've seen him on RSBN. I've seen him on a lot of different podcasts, a lot of different programs. And I'm so honored to have him on my show tonight. Thank you so much for coming on, TS.
Hey, Alexandra, thanks for having me.
Yeah, great. So tell us about your book. Tell us why you named it The Woke Mind Viruses and what does that mean?
Yeah, well, woke mind virus is a concept that came out of a book by a guy named Gad Saad, and it was picked up by Elon Musk a few years ago when they indoctrinated his oldest son in private school. He had been homeschooled previously and turned him into a communist and transsexual or transgendered. And so Elon then became very upset and started using this concept, the woke mind virus, to describe what had happened to his child. And it sort of became a cultural word saying. But when I was writing this book, I wanted to dig into the secret past and true origins of the four ideologies that make up the coalition on the left, which is globalism, leftism, liberalism, and then the new woke movement, the wokeism. And so as I was doing a breakdown and research into these four, I realized, these were very fascinating stories. It was a lot of revisionist history that had been scrubbed that I was going back and retracing and putting this puzzle together. And so it just felt like the perfect name for the book, because these dark ideologies that are out to destroy Western civilization are like mind viruses.
Now, have you been working a lot with the school boards, especially in liberal areas and liberal counties? Because you see in places like Maryland, places like Michigan, they really advocate for this woke culture, the DEI highness also with the teachers, but they really are pushing the transgender curriculum for a elementary school person. What say you about that?
Yeah, so I go into the history of this and how the woke virus of wokeism, that one ideology, started actually in academia in Frankfurt at a university there with a group of German communists, professors. And so it spread from there, and it really gestated for 90 years, or 80 to 90 years in the school system, largely in universities. And then in the last 20 years, it's really gone down into the high schools and middle schools, and now even into the kindergartens, preschools, and elementary schools. It is just metastasized like a cancer, and it's pushing basically five main lies. I call it the five lies of liberalism and wokeism. One is, the first is radical feminism, where it basically teaches women that men are they are second class and men are the oppressors, the new bourgeoisie that are holding them down and oppressing them. So they're taught to resent and hate men and do all these things to prove that they're better than men, and basically divide women and men from each other. The second one is obviously social justice, which is the idea of class warfare, that there's those that are oppressing those that are being oppressed, and that we have to have this social conflict and bring revolution to bring equity in society. There's climate alarmism, which is the whole climate change agenda. Then you have LGBTism, which is now being taught to kids as young as 4 and 5 years old, which is the idea that children are not born heterosexually naturally or gender normative like male and female, that male and female and heterosexuality are social constructs from the church, from society, from the government that are being forced down on the children at a young age. And so the teachers have to come in and liberate and save these kids by exposing them to transgenderism and homosexuality and bisexuality as young as possible, really in order to like religiously save these children from that fate. And so it goes on from there. But these are, and the last one is this critical race theory, or this racialism, which again, it's the age-old lie from Marx of you're the proletariat and there's a bourgeoisie oppressing you. And so it says that whites and country majorities in Europe and in America and the West are oppressing the minority races. And so here in America, that would predominantly be the black and brown races. And so it teaches them to resent and hate their history, hate their country, and hate white people.
And we see that all over the country. I see that, of course, I bring up Maryland a lot because I work in Maryland and I see all of these things that are happening, and they want to push reparations, which is insane. But, and like you said, they want to teach CRT, but yet they don't want to teach the Holocaust, which is real history, which really happened. Or you have people like CARE that are teachers in Montgomery County schools or in Maryland schools or liberal schools, and they teach their liberal spin. And I agree with you. I mean, they're teaching the kids wrong. They're putting political bias into the classroom, and they keep getting away with it. And it's really insane. So my question to you is, how do we stop this?
Well, we need to take massive political action. So the last 2 sections of the book, basically the first 4 sections I break down, I do a whole section on each one of these ideologies and going back into their true origins and explain their core beliefs, their political tactics. Then I go through ours as conservatives, our history as Americans, as Westerners, and what our core beliefs are and how they form the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution. And then the last 2 sections of the book, I basically lay out a political strategy for what I call massive institutional reform. And I actually case study other organizations, other countries, other movements throughout history that successfully brought permanent reform to their countries and overcame these kinds of infectious, deadly ideologies in their countries. And I lay out that in a 4-part strategy and then give a legislative agenda at the end. So I have a lot of recommendations, but to sum it up, I would call it massive institutional reform.
Now, do you also think there's a mental illness with these kids, with the teachers? I mean, you have kids going into school identifying themselves as a cat or a tiger, and the teachers are okay with that. What say you about that?
Well, I think it both causes mental illness and it feeds on mental illness. Like, for instance, the gender thing is literally giving kids gender dysphoria. Or if it also plays on kids that are seeking attention, seeking validation from adults. And so they want to please the adults, so they go along with the ideology and say that they're another gender or say that they're some sort of other thing entirely. And also children that are autistic or have mental disabilities, it also preys upon them. It's very sick.
I agree with you on that. We went back, or we talked about, a lot of the young people, and I do segments on dating in my shows all the time. And we're having a disconnect between men and women ages 28 to 40 that are having massive commitment issues. And a lot of it, in my opinion, has to do with the wokeness and the hashtag Me Too movement, where I feel that the women have to become men and the men are now becoming women. And my question to you is, how can we fix that? And there's, couples I talk to, they're together for 6 years, 10 years. The girl's already 31. Maybe she'll marry the guy, maybe she won't. And they finally get married, and then they may have kids, they may not have kids. The woman's okay waiting till she's 40, 41, 42 to have kids, which is, not really healthy.
Right.
This mentality, and I blame COVID on this a lot. COVID really killed the dating scene. And of course, there's a lot of people that prefer online dating as opposed to meeting someone, because COVID did that. A lot of men and women, they have up the pornography, and they expect that when they go and see their potential, because they don't know any better. So how can we work with those kids ages 26 to 40 to tell them to freaking wake up, stop dating your girlfriend or boyfriend for 6 or 7 years, put a ring on it already, get married, have kids, procreate, and that's really the natural way of life.
Well, a lot of this has come in through liberalism, and liberalism has anti-Western values and anti-traditional values. And so that's what it teaches, and it permeates our culture. And so if you aren't raised with traditional family values or morals, then you're going to be susceptible to that. You're going to fall into that, and you'll become demoralized. So people that have given up on marriage, given up on kids, or have the women that have bought into the lie of radical feminism, they're really sabotaging and destroying their own happiness. It's really a trick. It's a con, if you will, by Marxist women to destroy Western women by falling into the trap of believing these lies. Radical feminism was created by Betty Friedan in the 1960s, who got the ideas from a French author who was a radical Marxist, and Betty Friedan was a radical Marxist, and she was out to turn Western society upside down and bring in a Marxist revolution. And she played on the critical theory. The idea of critical theory from the Frankfurt School is that in America and the West, we have so much prosperity with our middle class and even our working classes that they don't go for the poor versus rich class warfare. It doesn't work here. We sort of look up to and respect a lot of wealthy people and want to become wealthy if we can. And so that didn't work here. Instead, they realized they got to attack the cultural vectors of black versus white, or women versus men, or gays and transgenders versus straight male and female. And the whole time, at the same time, attacking traditional family values. And so really what it'll take, if people are having trouble dating in that age range, it's very simple. You need to return to traditional family values, and you need to seek to date or marry somebody that shares those values. You have to seek the values first, and hopefully you can get some of the other attributes and qualities you're looking for. The other big problem, I think, for people that are having trouble dating is they're living in big or fairly large cities. And those are going to attract a lot of just single career types with tons and tons of options that don't want to settle down. And so if they want to find somebody that has more traditional family values, they need to move to small cities or suburban areas or towns. But I would recommend some of these great American small cities, or people in Europe, small cities, I think are a lot better for meeting someone.
Now, the big thing that happened this week and last week was, of course, the Sydney Sweeney ad with the American Eagle with the jeans. And I mean, Sydney Sweeney, she's a very beautiful woman. All she was doing was talking about the jeans. But of course, the woke culture, the liberalism, the liberal women in their pink hair, the women that wear the pink hats, of course, they were, again, like you said, cancel culture. They were saying that, she's saying because she's got blonde hair and blue eyes that only she can wear these jeans. Why was it taken that far? Why is this great? Why did the liberals and wokeism and the socialists believe that this was going to backfire, that American Eagle the stock was going to go down and this was going to be terrible, and Sydney Sweeney was going to really just, get egg in her face? What they need to understand is that by them criticizing Sydney Sweeney, and they criticized a very good-looking actor who was advertising for the Dunkin' Donuts drink, is it actually helped their stock. It brought up their stock. American Eagle is up like 15% now. I have Jewish friends now that are going and buying American Eagle jeans. So it's just interesting. So I want you to talk to my viewers about that perspective. Like, why does the woke people think that by criticizing beautiful people, talking about race, talking about what the person looks like, religion and whatnot, if they're a man or if they're a woman, why do they think this works when we all know it doesn't?
Well, remember, wokeism, leftism, liberalism, they all have their roots back in Marxism from the 1800s. And again, Marx teaches that if you're going to destabilize society and bring in a communist revolution, then you have to create class warfare. You have to destabilize society by taking the whole unified civilization, unified family, and dividing it, ripping it apart, and pitting people against each other, so that then you can bring in the reforms, bring in a more leftist country, more leftist government, eventually maybe even a full totalitarian revolution. And that's their purpose of their lives. It's called will to power. That's the only reason they have to live, because they're Darwinists. They don't believe in God. They don't believe in morality, right and wrong, or anything like that. And so this is all they've got. This is their political religion. Marx was a secular theologian. And so why do they hate her? Well, the modern version of this tactic is called, I call it the 5 lies. So what does Sydney Sweeney represent? Well, in CRT and racialism, they teach that the minorities are being oppressed by the majority. Well, what's the majority? It's white. Well, what's Sydney Sweeney? She's white. So therefore, she's bad. Okay, what else? Well, they teach now that another oppressed group are the obese, and the body shame movement, or body pride, or whatever they call it. And so, what is Sydney Sweeney? She's thin. She's not fat. So therefore, she's also an oppressor. You see, what else is she? She's female.
They called her a Nazi. That's a new one.
Well, she's female. So what is female? Well, they're not transgendered. Right. She's heterosexual. Again, she's an oppressor.
And she's a Republican.
That's even worse. Than they find out she's a Republican. So she represents, in their storyline, their political narrative, their religion, she represents the devil, because she represents the oppressor. And in their narrative, their historical reference for an oppressor is Hitler and Nazis. Right. And so, of course, they're going to call her a Nazi and Hitler, because anybody that represents these groups that are the new bourgeoisie, and for those that don't know that, I believe that's French, but it means the upper class, right. The rich, and those but it's not just that they're rich, it's that they're actively exploiting and oppressing everyone else, right? They're evil.
Yeah.
In this storyline. And so that's why there's this huge uproar and backlash, because they thought they were making progress by getting minority, obese lesbians into these kinds of ads. That to them, that's them a sign of their victory. And for American Eagle to go back to one of these oppressors with multiple layers of oppression in her identity, they're losing their grip. And what does society say? We don't care. They're going out and buying the product. Because you know what? Americans are sick of this. We're sick of woke. It's over. We're sick of it.
So I have a question, because you wrote the book, The Woke Mind Viruses. And as you just said, people are sick of wokeness. President Trump coming in has reduced the wokeness significantly. Anyone that has a pronoun next to their name that works for the government, they were fired immediately. Right. So I guess my question to you is, where do you go from here, since the wokeness is going away? Or do you feel it will never go away? It's still going to creep up. We still need to talk about it. We still need to focus upon it. What say you?
Well, the people are sick of woke. I believe that. And Trump and his administration, they are ridding it from the federal government. Correct. As far as policy goes. But it's not going away. Remember, this is their indoctrination from a very young age. This is their political religion, and this is their identity. You don't just flip a switch or swipe a pin and get rid of that and people. But remember, the book is about the coalition on the left, the 4 viruses. And the largest, most dangerous virus that we're up against is not liberalism or wokeism. It's actually globalism that is using these other 2 ideologies as tools, as proxies for their globalist agenda. And so I also go into the depths of the history of globalism, its founding fathers, its origins, with Cecil Rhodes and Lord Alfred Milner in South Africa, that then spread to England, where they were from, and heading up the War Council in World War I, and then spread to America through the robber barons and the banks, and has completely taken over and dominated our society, our institutions, and the deep state. And so the viruses are very dangerous. And when Trump is getting shot at, when his house is being raided, when they're stealing elections from him, when they're persecuting him with lawfare, that's this deep state, and that is globalism going after him, trying to stop him. because they are the new establishment. And Trump is the champion of the populist movement in America, just like there's champions in various countries around the world where populism and conservatism is taking hold and there's a resurgency. But we are up against a very secret and very covert ideological group called globalists.
Yep.
And, this is the battle of our lifetimes. And so really, that is the main thrust of the book.
I wholeheartedly agree with you. Please, T.S. Dixon, tell us how we can follow you, how we can get your book.
You can find me and what I'm up to at tsdixon.com. And then the book is available on Amazon and the audio book is available on Audible and Apple Books.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. You are a wealth of knowledge. You are doing God's work. I appreciate it. My viewers appreciate it. And we would love to have you come on again. Let me know when you're writing another book.
Thanks, Alexandra. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Thanks.
Thank you. And we will be right back, guys, after the break.
Welcome to America's Pulse Network. This is APN's very own White House correspondent, Alexandra Levine.
This is so amazing and miraculous. We've never had a president in the history of our nation doing this. And we hope to God that he continues doing this forever and ever. Thank you. God bless you, everybody. And God bless President Trump.
And God bless you.
Hello, everyone. This is Alexandra Levine with the America's Pulse Network. I am the White House correspondent right here in the heart of D.C. as President Trump is celebrating 250 years of America and the military.
Subscribe and follow America's Pulse Network on the above social medias.
And yes, that's me, the White House correspondent for this amazing network. I have the pleasure of being in the White House briefing room, the White House lawn with President Trump and others. I've had people call me and ask me all the time, Alexandra, can you help me with this? Alexandra, can you help me with that? And I can tell you, I email Caroline Levitt and the White House press pool on a daily basis, letting President Trump know what's going on in your area and in your state and in your district. And it is an honor. I can tell you the conservative media at the White House, we are the ones that literally have the seat at the table. We're the ones that have fuller access than the regular mainstream media, than the fake news, because President Trump and Caroline Levitt are tired of the fake news. They're tired of fake coverage. They're tired of the mainstream media dissing the president and being opinion pieces and not being real reporters. And there's some big news that mainstream media doesn't cover, but I cover. And my conservative podcasters and other conservative media do cover. So I am very grateful to have the honor of being the White House correspondent. So again, like I said in the last segment, I am a political consultant. I own my own political consultant firm. And I'm very picky in particular now who is my client. I really only work with America First people. I really only work with people that support President Trump and their agenda. And I heavily vet my clients. I heavily vet who I work with. I heavily vet the people that I know really love President Trump or they really hate him. And again, one of the reasons why I am a part of the conservative media at the White House is because I was heavily vetted by the press pool, by Caroline Levitt and the press team, but also President Trump and his team, such as Dan Scavino Jr. and Stephen Miller and Susan Wiles, et cetera, because they wanted to make sure that I wasn't fake news. They wanted to make sure that I support the president. They want to make sure I didn't attack him. They want to make sure that I'm legit, that I'm not just some whacked out woke woman, that I actually do agree and believe in what President Trump stands for, which I always have. I've said on this program before, I'm a hardcore Trump supporter. I've been one of his biggest supporters, if not the biggest supporter, from the very, very, very beginning. Even in 2013, I had the pleasure of going to Trump Tower, and I had coffee with a friend of mine at the Starbucks. You go right up that escalator. And I said to my friend, wouldn't it be nice if this guy ran for president and everything he touches turns to gold? And then he did it 2 years later. And I was like, you go, man, you do this, you take this. And I knew he was going to win. I had no doubt in my mind he was going to win. I had no doubt in my mind he was going to win in 2020. I had no doubt in my mind he was going to win in 2024. And I know there's a lot of talk of him running again. There's been fishing about him running again. Who knows? I mean, me personally, I would not be opposed to it, because we need someone in there that will continue the America First agenda, the MAGA movement, and who better than him, or who better than his children? And we do have a very good vice president, J.D. Vance, but it's not Trump. It's not his children. His children know the agenda. I've never considered President Trump a politician. I've never considered his children politicians. I don't consider myself a politician. There's people I work with that don't consider politicians, because we do for the will of the people, because we are not bought and paid for. And the socialists and the lobbyists and the special interest groups and the globalists that all surround Capitol Hill, and even some of the state GOPs, they're corrupt as hell. And they dangle a lot of money in front of you. And guess what? If you take some of their money, they own you. And it's really hard to get out of that. It's really hard, because then if you don't do what they say, then they do everything they can to work against you, to hurt you, to undermine you, to say things about you that are not true, to accuse you of things that you've never done. But it's really sad. It's really sad. And, they have this concept, go along to get along. Well, that only goes so far. There is a saying, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. And that's what President Trump does every day. That's what he did when he ran in 2016. And in 2020, he found out who his true friends were. 2024, he really is finding out who his true friends are. That's why he's got certain people that are working with him, and he's not getting rid of them so fast. He wanted a team around him that he knew he could trust, that were loyal. Loyalty is so important. Loyalty is not only important to him, it's important to myself too. That's why he only wants his loyalist supporters around him, his loyalist people around him. And I'm the same way too. And I had the pleasure of going to an event with our good friend, Tim Fazenbaker. He's an elected official in his area. He's running for higher office. He's running for Baltimore County Councilman District 9. That is the new district. It was 7. Now it's becoming 9. It is the most MAGA/America First district in the whole entire map. And Tim and I, we went to a dinner, which we normally wouldn't go to, because the type of people that are at the dinner, they're all Rhino establishment people. And we were there with our friend Kimberly Stansberry, who's running for Baltimore County Executive. Now, the guy who's the president of the club, he acknowledged Tim. He acknowledged Kim Stansberry. He said to Tim, because you're a candidate, we're respecting all the candidates. We're giving each candidate at least 2 minutes to speak. Would you like to speak, Mr. Fazenbaker? And he's like, yeah, sure. Tim Fazenbaker's supposed other candidate, or the guy that's supposed to run against him, the Rhino establishment / Democrat opposition, was there. We have a nickname for him that I won't reveal. He's Ukraine first, by the way. He stands with Westmore. He stands with Senator Chris Van Hollen, who, of course, wasted Maryland taxpayer dollars to go over and try to get an illegal sex trafficker back to this country. And that's who they're trying to put up against Tim, in a very MAGA/America First district. Well, Tim got to speak, and this is what he said.
I'm America First, and I support President Donald J. Trump. There's a lot more that we can be doing. Look, I come from the Dundalk Edgemere area, and we want more. And when President Trump talked about the golden era, that's when I said, we should not be left behind. Western Pennsylvania, Texas, they're getting AI warehouse infrastructure. We're not. What are we getting? More taxes. Not what we're going to do. So I'm going to continue to fight to help bring in high-tech jobs, high government jobs, like the HUD building should be coming to our area, and we should be bringing AI warehouse infrastructure there. Secondly, a pipeline for blue-collar trades jobs, starting in the middle school, working with the unions, getting the people ready to be able to service the AI infrastructure warehouse that we're going to bring. And third, I will work with ICE. I already have friends with Tom Homan. We will follow the rule of law, and we're going to make Dundalk and Edgemere and the new District 9 the best area out there. Thank you very much.
Let me tell you, he got a lot of applause last night. There was people there who maybe didn't know him, maybe were on the fence on him, and he gained a lot of support that night. And let me tell you something, the Rhino establishment in that room looked so bad because they knew they couldn't combat him. What did Tim talk about? He talked about bringing AI warehouses back to Maryland, talking about a pipeline for trade schools so that when those young kids graduate from the trade schools, they have a job waiting for them when they graduate. Then he talked about safety. He talked about how he works with Border Czar Thomas Homan. I know for a fact that Tim works with Borders are Thomas Homan, because there was illegals at the Home Depot in Dundalk where Tim lives, and he called ICE and called Thomas Homan and got those illegals removed from his community. He's got people calling him and emailing him left and right. Hey, can you help us here? Hey, can you help us there? We're actually going to an event this Saturday for a constituent, someone that lost their child. The child was on a motorcycle and he died. He was hit by a semi-truck. His name is Denver. It's called Denver's Legacy. Not one of these rhino establishment delegates and state senators reached out to the young boy's family, but Tim did. Tim is also part of the Lost Voices for Fentanyl. Our friend April Babcock, who spoke at Tim's event, she said, the state senator never called me. I reached out to him, didn't hear a word. The rhino delegate, didn't hear anything from him. But Tim answered and took my call. And Tim gave her a voice at his event. She didn't even know she was speaking, and we're going to her event. Our friend Ann Funder is a part of the Lost Voices for Fentanyl because her son died of fentanyl. I mean, these are things that Tim is so hone in on, and he cares. He does. I told you last week, he doesn't do this for votes. He does this because he loves the people. And he's running in a district where these are his constituents. He got 18% of the vote when he ran against 8 other people in his committee. And these will be the same constituents that will vote for him again. Now, the incumbent is not running. The incumbent was unfortunately exposed by the Baltimore Banner not once but twice. He's a known alcoholic. He's been in and out of alcoholic rehab. He abused his wife to the point where his wife had to write a protective peace order against him or file a protective peace order against him because he abused her physically. And she has a stepdaughter too. Or sorry, she has a daughter, but it's not with Todd. And Todd was living in her house and she threw him out. I heard they're divorced now. And also Todd has threatened to hurt his mother as well. So the guy's a hot mess. But he is retiring. He's not running again. And Tim is the next person to take his seat, to replace him. That's what the people of Dundalk and Edgemere and Sparrows Point want. That's what's going to happen. But the interesting thing is that Tim was offered 2 minutes to speak, and so was his opponent. But his opponent didn't want to speak. His opponent backed out of speaking. Why did his opponent back out of speaking? This was his base. These are his people, the rhinos. Is it because he wanted to hear what Tim had to say? Is it because he's trying to copy Tim's vision? Every time you try to ask the guy about legal immigration or safety or building the economy, he's silent. The guy has not made a single statement. Now, Tim has been all over social media. He's been texting his voters. He's fundraising like crazy. His name is out there. And we're doing this all in a year in advance. Actually, Tim was starting to do this 1.5 years in advance. We won't know the official mapping until September. But Baruch Hashem, it's looking really good for him. They're not cutting him out of the district. Now they're trying to put maybe another area in there that the rhino needs to win, but I don't think it's going to happen. So if I was the rhino, I wouldn't even bother. And the rhino is so anti-Trump, has never said a kind word about Trump, never put pictures up with anybody that works for Trump. And he claims he's America first and MAGA. Please. The back of his Boy Scout uniform says Ukraine. His Facebook profile has him in front of a Ukrainian flag. Is that the type of guy that you want as your county councilman in Baltimore in a very MAGA/America First district? Heck no. And Tim knows the Democrat that's thinking of, running as well. He's more of a moderate Democrat. Tim has actually done business with the guy. They're cordial. So it shows that Tim can get along with Democrats and independents. Because as I said before, when Tim wins the primary, it's a straight shot to the general. There will be no Democrat to beat him because of the district demographics. And I can tell you, when it comes to liberal districts and liberal states, I personally am only working with the local level right now. Because we see in New York and we've seen in Maryland, the Democrats, they start locally and they get in and they stay in and they move up and up and up. So this is a great position for Tim to be in, to be a local county councilman in his district, and he'll just elevate himself up. I told you, Tim will be in the halls of Congress one day. He may be even a U.S. senator one day. He may even be vice president one day. That man has such a big political career future ahead of him, and he is just getting started. So for you rhinos out there that are trying to finagle your little backdoor deals, trying to do something to screw Tim, it's not going to work this time. Tim gets along with everyone. He gives everyone a voice. He reaches out to everyone. He is open to talking to everybody. The fact that his opponent didn't take the 2 minutes to talk, and this was again to his base, speaks a lot. And I've talked to political consultants in Ohio about this today. They were like, what the heck? They're like, even if he doesn't like the guy, even if it's his base, he should have still talked. No, he didn't give a damn. Because he's a real POS. And the minute that Tim said, I'm America first and I support President Donald J. Trump, his opponent would never, ever say that. The rhinos in that room would have never said that. They won't say that. They can't say that because they don't really support Trump and they're not America first. But when Tim says it, it's real and it comes from the heart. That's the difference between the two men. And Tim is no boy. Tim is a man. His opponent is a little boy. You should see the way he eats. He eats like a little boy. Actually, it reminded me of John Kasich, just shoving a bunch of food in his mouth. And I remember President Trump saying, small bites, Barron, small bites. He's like, that's what I told Barron my whole life, small bites. But this guy, John Kasich, he's like stuffing the food down his throat. A slob. Eating like a slob. We want to make the area of Dundalk and Sparrows Point and Edgemere beautiful again, great again. And we want representatives that will actually do something. When people used to call Todd Crandall's office, they couldn't get through to him. They couldn't get through to his staff. There's rumors from the Baltimore Banner that Todd Crandall's thinking of pushing his staff. No names, nobodies, people that don't do anything. And they're elderly. They're past Medicare age. They're on their way to like a nursing home or a facility or a independent living facility, like 75 to 81 years old. That's who you want as your county councilman? Someone who's 81 years old, doesn't do anything, who's a drunk? We don't want that. We're tired of that. Bring someone young, fresh, and new with young, fresh ideas. And there was a guy there named Aaron Tamarchio, who is the vice president of Trade Point Atlantic, which used to be Bethlehem Steel in Dundalk. Everybody knows Trade Point Atlantic in Dundalk. And Tamarchio said, he acknowledged him. He said, it's so nice to hear that somebody wants to bring artificial jobs back to the district. Because what Aaron is doing is he's actually bringing American steel back to Trade Point. And he's bringing jobs back to the district. Instead of him hiring people internationally and people outside of the district, he's actually going to be hiring people inside Dundalk and Edgemere. And that's a great thing. And they're so excited that Sean Duffy and possibly President Trump and J.D. Vance and others, with Tim as your elected official, as your councilman, it will make Maryland more attractive so that President Trump and Sean Duffy and the EPA director, Lee Zeldin, come to Maryland and want to do something. Because people are very upset that the bridge has not been rebuilt because it's hurting manufacturing jobs and the traffic is astronomical. But it's the elected officials, such as the state senator and the Rhino delegates. They've been sitting on their hands. They kissed the butt of Governor Wes Moore. They're not pushing for the rebuilding of this bridge. They've been like MIA. And the people are upset. The people are very upset. Tim has been talking about rebuilding the bridge since it went down. It shouldn't be taking years for this bridge to be rebuilt. The sooner the bridge is rebuilt, the more jobs can come back. But again, you have to have the right people in office. I applaud Tim for his speech. It was a phenomenal speech. His platform is amazing. And I tell everyone to please donate to him at timfazenbaker.com. Make a donation, $100, $200, $500. The money is pouring in. Tim, FAZENBAKER.com. He will be your next Baltimore County Councilman, District 9. Mark my words on that. And then, of course, we had our friend Kimberly Stansberry, who's running for Baltimore County Executive. Let's hear what she had to say.
We need our streets safe. So when we have to be out late to a meeting or we're just shopping or whatever, we need to feel safe. So we need to make sure that our police departments are fully funded. Our fire department needs to be fully funded. Our EMS and our 911 call center. How many of you have called 911 recently? Were you put on hold? Yes. What? Yes.
Oh my Lord.
Because they do not have enough staff. You call 911, they say, well, can you please hold? Well, no, I can't hold. This is an emergency. So this is what we need. We need to fix Baltimore County. We can't be spending our time on useless things like this whole fiasco with Kelly Madigan. That never should have occurred in the first place. All it did was cost taxpayers money over something that never should have been. She should have been reappointed right off the bat. So here in Baltimore County, we need to do what's right for each other. So I'm Kim Stansberry, and I am running to be your next Baltimore County Executive because I care about the people in Baltimore County. Thank you.
And that's right, she does. I love Kimberly Stansberry. I've known her for years. She ran for Baltimore County Executive a few years ago, and she came in a very strong second place. She would have won if somebody didn't jump into the last second, at the last moment, at the last day. But the president of that club actually acknowledged her as being the next Baltimore County Executive. She would be the first elected woman county executive, not appointed, but elected. And she loves the county. She knows Baltimore County like no other. She's smart. She has legislation like no other. And she will keep the people of Baltimore County safe. She told me, Alexandra, I just want to focus on being the county executive. I want to focus on the issues of the county. I don't want to leave Baltimore. I don't want to leave my county. I don't want to leave my area. And she lives in Towson. She lives in a very well-to-do neighborhood in Towson. They're $1 million homes. She has a $1 million home herself. She's a very well-to-do woman. And they want to put up this financial guy because they think he can self-fund his campaign. Well, who the heck want to self-fund their own campaign? Running for Baltimore County Executive as a Republican and being the underdog. Even the Democrats aren't self-funding their campaign. That's stupid. You don't put $1 million of your own money into a Baltimore County Executive race. That's craziness. He's not running for Congress. He's not running for the U.S. Senate. It's crazy. Let's see if he actually will do it. But she's a force to be reckoned with. She's a clean record. Her husband served our nation. And she's great with our youth, with the Black community, with the Jewish community, and of course our veterans, because her husband was a veteran. She's helped the homeless. She's fed the homeless. And she knows her county like no other. Like I said, I am focusing on local races in liberal states because, again, that's what the Democrats do. Johnny Olszewski, who's now the congressman in District 2 of Baltimore County, he started as a state delegate, then he became the county executive, now he's a congressman. This Mondavi guy wants to become the next mayor of New York City. God forbid, he may become president of the United States one day. I hope he doesn't get to being mayor of New York City. But that's how it starts. Democrats know how to play that game. Republicans can play that game too. I was very fortunate that I helped a lot of conservatives get into the school board in Frederick County. We have a America First Republican as the mayor of Hagerstown. And my friend Sean Flaherty is America First Republican. He's the only sitting Republican in the Hagerstown City Council. But they all won because they focused on the issues of their districts and their counties. They didn't get into a whole bunch of other crap. They didn't get distracted. And they didn't work with the party either. Sometimes working with the party actually hurts you because, again, the majority of the party are rhinos. Now, there's some people in the party that you may have an ally or two, but the party will push whoever the party wants to push, even though they're not allowed to, because there are something called bylaws. You're not allowed to endorse a candidate before the primary, but they do push who they want, and they focus on who they want. But if you're part of a Maryland Freedom Caucus or any Freedom Caucus, and you don't back an America First guy or America First person or MAGA person, you are a hypocrite. Because President Trump looks at that. President Trump is looking at these races. He knows these districts. He knows the MAGA district in Baltimore County that Tim is running in. He knows who's the MAGA guy and who's not. And that video that Tim spoke at, or that video where you just saw Tim speaking, was sent to President Trump and his team last night. So they have it. Kim Stansbury's was as well. It's time to get real people that love our country, that really support and love Donald Trump, that will really work with the Trump administration, not combat them, in positions of power, even in liberal areas, even in liberal states, even in liberal districts. So please go to electkimstansbury.org. That's electkim, STANSBURY, electkimstansbury.org. Make a donation to her campaign today. You'll be happy you did. And again, please go to timfazenbaker.com. Make a donation with him today. And all these people are accessible on Facebook and X. You can go to @America1TimFaze on X, Tim Fazenbaker on Facebook, Kim Stansbury or Kimberly Stansbury on Facebook. They're all accessible. And anytime we have events, I encourage you guys to go to the events and meet them in person. We had a sold out event on Sunday night, and Kim was there with Tim. Please, guys, please do the right thing and push these America First MAGA people in office. Now, before we leave, don't forget that we have the RNC, my affiliate sponsor, rncstore.com/ALL. Look at the ticker. Again, if you don't put ALL, you don't get the discount. It's a 10% discount. It's rncstore.com/ALL. And there you go, rncstore.com/ALL. And speaking of them, John Richardson, he is a new podcaster on our network. I'm so happy that he is on our network. And his show now is Wednesday nights from 6 to 7 p.m. Beautiful hour, 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's called Hidden Healings Uncensored every Wednesday night. And then after that is The Pulse. The Pulse with our 5-people panel every Wednesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. So you have Hidden Healings Uncensored on the America's Pulse Network. Stay with us, like and subscribe, stay with us, and then watch The Pulse from 8 to 9 p.m. You never know who's going to host. You never know what special guests that we have, but on The Pulse, we talk about everything. And of course, don't forget about Seth's GoFundMe. As you know, Seth, we call him Popeye the Sailor Man. He was unfortunately in the hospital for over a month. He almost lost his foot, and it's been very hard for him to work. It's been very hard for him to pay bills. He's got a son to support, his wonderful son, Ryan. So please, guys, go to Seth's GoFundMe /Jonah/crisis/health crisis. He served our Navy. It is time to get back to him. He's a wonderful guy. We've raised over $6,500. The goal is 10,000. The ultimate goal is, that goal for the GoFundMe is 25,000, and the final goal is 100,000. Please, guys, instead of giving to illegals and murderers and God knows what, give to Jonah instead. And of course, we have my friend Allison Reedy, her wonderful son, Dylan Reedy. All he wants to do is go to college in Utah, Alice State tuition. They live in Michigan. She's America First. She's a MAGA girl. So is her family. Please go to Dylan Reedy's Give Send Go. It's givesendgo.com/constitutional. Every dollar you give goes to educating a young man so he can live the American dream. And of course, my friend Lucretia Hughes, she lost her home, through the most horrible way. Somebody forged her husband's signature and they had to leave their home. They were evicted, and she's doing everything she can to get back her home. She's raised a significant amount of money. She's trying to raise more, and she's got attorneys involved. And this is a winnable case. I can tell you, this is a winnable case. So please go to givesendgo.com/retake-our-home. That's givesendgo.com/retake-our-home. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe always at America's Pulse Network. And we're always looking for other podcasters at americaspulsenetwork.com. You can fill out the application, and also sponsors. We're always looking for sponsors. And you can go to americaspulsenetwork.com and fill out the sponsorship form. We're looking for sponsors for my show, for Damon's show, for Seth's show, and of course for the entire network. And again, don't forget to follow The Jersey Shore every Monday nights from 8 to 9 p.m. with our friend Damon Galdo. And of course, Friday nights from 8 to 9 p.m. with our friend Damon Galdo. You can follow Damon Galdo on Facebook and at Damon Galdo on X. And of course, don't forget my friend, Popeye the Sailor Man, the conservative corner, Seth Eisenberg, every Sunday night from 7 to 8:30 p.m. That's 7 to 8:30 p.m. You can follow him on the conservative corner on Facebook and at conservative Seth on X. And again, like I said, we have a new show called The Hidden Healings Uncensored on Wednesday nights. You can follow the RNC store on X at Hidden Healings Uncensored on X from 6 to 7 p.m. every Wednesday night. And of course, we have the Pulse, like I said earlier, from 8 to 9 p.m. on X. And of course, don't forget to follow at America's Pulse Network on X, at America's Pulse Network on Rumble, at America's Pulse Network on YouTube. Now we are on Parler kicking butt at America's Pulse Network, and we are on Truth Social at America's Pulse Network, and we're on TikTok now. So 5 platforms now, guys, and we are growing. So at America's Pulse Network on whatchamacallit, on TikTok. And yes, Donald Willinger, thank you so much for coming on our show. Yes, I did hear what was happening in Austin. I covered that earlier in the show. You're right. Dems are in a lot of trouble. And I want to thank everyone that watched my show tonight. I really appreciate the nice comments that I get. Of course, the inappropriate comments, are unappreciated. But, we understand it's your freedom of speech as well. I agree. The United States is a constitutional republic. That is true. It's not a democracy. I've always said that. I've educated people on that. So thank you, Vineyard GHS, for correcting that for the record. And again, guys, don't forget to follow me, Alexandra Levine, at Alexandra Levine on Facebook, at Alexandra LEVI20 on X, at AirLevine85 on Instagram, at AirLevine85 on Rumble, at AirLevine85 on True Social, at AirLevine85 on TikTok. Thank you guys so much for watching my show, for listening. And the reason you listen and the reason you watch is you are no idiot.
America's Pulse Network. The mainstream media is bought and paid for. The truth is twisted to fit their agenda. But America is waking up because podcasts are the future for trusted media. Welcome to the America's Pulse Network. It is a network built by patriots that upholds the Constitution. The America's Pulse Network stands for God, truth, and the America First movement. There is no corporate propaganda, no government spin, just real news, real talk, and real voices fighting for faith, freedom, and the future of this great nation with common sense. Here are some of America's Pulse Network podcasts. Alexandra Levine Live, hosted by Alexandra Levine. Jersey Shore Podcast, hosted by Damon Galdo. The Conservative Corner, hosted by Seth Eisenberg. APN's The Pulse, hosted by Alexandra, Damon, and Seth. So tune into America's Pulse Network on the following social media platforms: X/Twitter, Rumble, Truth Social, Facebook, and YouTube. Join the revolution. Because the pulse of America beats for God and country. America's Pulse Network is for faith, family, freedom, and truth.